everybody. Welcome to Roundtable Live for March, there it is, March 9th, 2018. I'm Bear Taffy, joined by, hey, it's the old crew. What do you know about that? It's Rock Lee Smile, Mathis Games, and Northernline, back from wherever they've all been and here for your entertainment. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. There's just an enjoyment of every time playing the intro and just watching chat go brap. This is really, really enjoyable for me for whatever reason.
I'm glad it's become a positive. That makes me happy, honestly. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us again. It has been a minute since we've all been together, so I'm glad to have the old crew back for some more Roundtable. And we're gonna talk about some gaming news, and then some games, and then also some more games. Wow, what do you know? And then we'll end the show at that point. Let me give you a breakdown of what the docket's going to look like today. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct that went down yesterday. They actually dropped quite a bit of news yesterday, and many fans are pleased. So we'll get into the meat and taters of that. BLOPS 4 announced. That's the whole story, but we'll talk about it again anyway. Valve getting back into the business of making games, which is a shocker, honestly, to me. I'm very surprised that they are beginning to go back into this direction. So we'll talk about the implications there. Violence in video games. Is there some? Wow. Let's talk about it. And Vermintide 2.
Hollywood stars. What do they know? Let's
Vermintide 2 also released this week, as well as Dungreed, which came out, I think, a couple weeks ago, but we've got a couple of us put some hours into that, and it's a good one. And we're going to talk about what we've been playing this week as well, just sort of go around the round table and discuss what we've all been individually going through and have a little conversation there, too. So that's it. That's the show. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. I think I'm looking forward to it. You guys feel good about this one? You ready to
why
go?
not?
Okay, cool.
Sure, it's my last one before I disappear for a week, so make it good.
Mm-hmm.
Which convention are you going to?
None.
Really?
Non-con?
Vacation.
You're going to the convent?
I'm going to vacation. Damn it.
I didn't even know you had your freaking thing ready.
No, that's where you get the habit.
The
You get the habit
The
there.
habit.
Right. If
You
you
gotta eat whoopee?
Well, every single day there's a prayer circle and then there's a religious test. And if you can get through each religious test and you actually don't fuck anyone at the convention, you get a habit at the end. It's like getting laid in Hawaii, but minus any form of showing body or
Right,
sex.
it's getting laid for never having gotten laid.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's great. I'm gonna get laid by God.
I like convent, like it's so
Non-convent.
convenient that way, right?
Right, yeah,
I love
no,
it.
it's great. Yeah, non-convent.
Non-convention, something like that. There's something
Brought
in
to you
there.
by Ventrilo.
Let's talk about the Nintendo Direct. Nintendo Direct news this week. Well, right out of the gate, oh my goodness. Folks are thrilled, primarily for Smash Brothers, the new Smash.
Yeah.
Announced.
It was an hour-and-a-half presentation, and they wanted the last 5 seconds.
I'm just mad there's no Animal Crossing yet. And it's seeping into my optimism with Nintendo Direct, and it just made me hate Nintendo Direct.
Well, you're just a grumpy old man because you can't even get excited for a new Smash. Come on now.
No,
Matt.
see, all right, let me approach this from an angle that hopefully appeases everybody. I totally understand the hype for Smash. I personally am off of the Smash wagon at this point in my life.
Smash wagon. I
All
like
my
that.
friends live far away. We don't really play online all that much. So I don't care as much anymore. There was a time in my life where Smash was everything. I loved Smash Brothers, and I had my friend over like every day, but not anymore. And
You might as well be walking on the sun.
If we were to do a 4-player melee battle royale between the 4 of us, who
I
would
would play.
win?
I mean,
I think Nick
also
would
not me.
probably win.
No,
Nick would
okay.
probably win.
no, I'm terrible at it.
You're really terrible at melee? I
Rob
thought
would
you would
win.
probably be... Oh,
Rob would win.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's not here.
I would crush you guys at 64. I'm just letting you know.
Okay. I'll throw the gauntlet down on 64. I
Probably-
Can play, wait, no, Link. Yeah, that's the one.
I was like, who
Link
did you
is a
play?
low-tier character in Smash 64, so I already know I would...
I was a Mario player in 64.
Mario, also horrible. I would sunder you. limb from limb. If you don't play Fox, Pikachu, or Ness, just back off. That's basically it.
Is that S tier on 64? I don't even remember what.
That's
the
what it
good
was
stuff
back. I don't know if the meta has changed much since like the year 2007, 2008, but that's what it was back then.
I'm sure it has. Is the thing. I bet the meta has changed drastically, repeatedly.
And
Over
in
the
the newer games, I was a Toon Link player. That's who I played.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that's a good switch up. I like that.
Well, that's when I became casual because, like, for Smash for Wii and beyond, all I want to do is play DDD because the hammer is just so satisfying when it connects in the sweet spot. Even though he's like enormous and super slow and floaty as hell, when he hits with the hammer and knocks someone off, it's like the greatest feeling in video game history.
King DDD is like if you're playing the home run mini game, but all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
Other announcements too. Yeah, new Smash though. I mean, I don't know. I'll probably pick it up. I did get the Wii U one, but I played it a few times and realized I'm not really that much into it either anymore. So I don't know if I'm even gonna really try that hard to get into this one. But
well, like it's good, but I really do think it relies on like having that kind of like. As much as it has online, I kind of agree with Mathis where like I don't really want to play it online. I just want to like conjure that nostalgic image of like getting 4 people around or 5 people in like winter stays. But yeah, I mean it was fine, but I was in the same boat where I was like I don't really have the space in my life for getting really, really good at online Smash Brothers right now.
Well, if you're like me, you know that if you hop online, you're going to get your ass beat 99 times out of 100.
Yeah, exactly.
I also remember online for the Wii U version being garbage.
I can't remember, honestly.
Laggy.
Like,
my friend tried to play it a bunch. He was really into Smash for a while, and he said online was like a 50-50 shot of like getting somebody who was lagging like hell and having a serviceable match.
It feels like fighting games sort of had just a bad rep for that, of never really having a great reliable connection, at least the ones I played back in the day. But
the Arxis stuff's usually pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say the new Dragon Ball Z Fighters one is actually really solid, and I love like when you're playing online, it tells you what the frame delay is when you're playing, and like the frame delay on at least the PC version is never more than like between 2 and 4. It's really
which is good because I know like if it's 2, I've got to react a little faster, and if it's 4, I'll just make sure I do all my inputs 2 frames later.
Right, of course.
That's like 1/30th of a second or something.
You've got to.
It's just like
they actually care about that stuff, though, don't they? Like the pros, they actually take that stuff into consideration. I think. I don't know.
Possible that this Smash is just the last one brought to Switch.
Oh,
I don't think so because
With all the DLC.
The silhouettes. Well, they showed Link a little bit, and that was Breath of the Wild Link.
Yeah,
and he's not in the older ones.
The way they presented it, it certainly seems like it's a new one, and it's been long enough too. It's probably about time. Like it's been 5-6 years since the last Smash came out, so I think.
All right. I just thought because they were doing like a Hyrule Warriors definitive version, maybe they'd follow suit with this as well, and they kind of make this trend of like bringing over Wii U games. They just did it with Bayonetta as well.
They do have a history, like recently, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and like you said, Bayonetta. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I'm like 80% confident it's a new Smash.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'd be very surprised if it wasn't a new Smash.
I mean, they also kind of showed like the Splatoon characters. They weren't in the other Smash. And I assume the fact that they showed the Splatoon people looking at the Smash sign means they're going to be in Smash. Yeah.
They added a couple things to Mario Kart 8, didn't they? So couldn't they just take all the DLC from the Wii U version?
I have like
characters.
Really? I have like 40 hours in Mario Kart 8. And every time we race, we still unlock new stuff. It's out of control. Like every race is like, now you got Waluigi's paraglider, and now you got the Splatoon bike, but it's in pink instead of blue. Like it just never ends.
I don't think they actually like added that in the deluxe version though, which is what Nick was asking. I think that was all just sort of like there.
Yeah, I didn't play it up to now. So.
Yeah, I can't remember the timeline of like, did Splatoon come out before Mario Kart 8 on Wii U, or did it come out after?
I'll look.
That's a good question.
I'd be fine with it either way.
I'm not like upset.
I'm just
Splatoon release date.
I think Mario Kart on the Switch or on the Wii U. Sorry,
on the Wii U. Obviously, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out after the Switch, or sorry, after. Well, yes, after the Switch, but after Splatoon.
Mario Kart 8 was first by about a year.
Okay, so the Splatoon. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
now you have details.
Serious, really. If that.
The Inklings were added for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So.
Okay, well, there you go. Oh yeah, that's right.
And the Mercedes as well.
Yeah, okay. So there were a few things that they put in there. I think a couple other characters as well might have been unique to Deluxe.
I can't remember if the Koopa children were in Mario Kart 8.
They were. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know. As far as just the direct as an overall thing to get away from weird specific character inclusions, I guess I'm more pessimistic in that like a lot of it was like, look at what we're porting to the Switch, and
I'm
less
feeling
of like
similarly, yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, well, also Nintendo had an amazing year last year with a ton of first party stuff. It's not like we're going to see a new Mario and a new Zelda and all that stuff right now. And while Metroid Prime 4 is in development, I feel like we're still a ways away before we start seeing any footage of it.
They got a lot of other properties though, man. Like they really could go so many directions.
Kirby, that's coming out now.
Yeah, Kirby's coming out. I would have loved to see Metroid Prime 4, and just my inner turmoil of not seeing a new Animal Crossing is killing me all the time. Like, I just want a new Animal Crossing because that board game was awful.
Bad. Not a good game.
It was terrible.
And then the phone game was not all that.
I didn't even play it. Yeah, I didn't even play it.
It was a bit of a money grab, actually, from what I remember. That was kind of iffy. But like Nick said, yeah, there's a Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition coming to the Switch in May as well. Mario Tennis Aces coming in June. That's kind of exciting.
And this is not just me being me, but that's like the Nintendo property I'm most excited about. 100%.
Same way with that.
Not even close.
From that direct.
I will never. Animal Crossing is just too. It's
not
too
your thing.
demanding
It's not your
for
thing.
me. Yeah, like it puts appointments on my Google calendar, and it's too far. And then like Mario Tennis, I'm like 100%. A game lasting 10 minutes is like the perfect sweet spot for me.
And I like Joy-Cons are going to be ideal for this too. It's going to be so easy.
And I like that they are including like the crazy mode with all the power-ups and stuff, and they also have like the simple rules mode that they talked about, which is none of the power-ups, none of the weird trick shots, and just simple, you know, top spin, backspin, slice.
Does that get rid of the brackets breaking? Because I thought that looked kind of awful.
I think so, but fuck if I know. I don't know. I hope so. The rackets breaking was like a life system, right? You only get 3 rackets and then you're out of the game. So,
well, we'll know for sure June 22nd when it releases. They're getting a bunch of ports, as we mentioned. South Park coming to the Switch on April 24th. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, which continues to surprise me with how damn successful it was.
Can I just want to jump in and say I thought it was very entertaining to hear the sort of sterilized Nintendo voice person say the fractured butthole.
Yeah. Yes, me too. I enjoyed that quite a bit. The Crash Bandicoot trilogy is also coming to PC.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Oh, I think I remember it's coming pretty soon, isn't it? I think maybe even already out. I'm gonna check because I think I just saw a tweet from Steam today about it.
Really?
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy is... Oh, no, never mind. 4 months.
Okay, I was like, really? Shit, I gotta buy that and play it now.
Yeah. My bad. Yeah, false alarm. July 10th for the Insane Trilogy on both Switch and PC, so that's cool. Undertale also coming to the Switch.
Not a surprise.
TBA on the date, but that's happening. I think there's a few others. There's Okami HD, which I think I'm finally going to use that as an opportunity to play that game because I know that's one that.
Oh, really? You still haven't played that game?
I haven't played Okami. No,
it's on PC. I'm surprised you didn't pick it up.
Just came out on PC.
It seems like something that's up my alley too, so I'm definitely going to check it out.
Okami is phenomenal. It is just about 20 hours too long.
That's a lot.
Wow.
The game is like between 40 and 70 hours, depending.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The games mashed together.
10 times as long as I was expecting.
The game has like 3 different endings. Like, because it's like, it feels like it's ending, and then it keeps going, and then it feels like it's ending again, and then it keeds going.
Is it like still satisfying to play that long? Or you said it was 20 hours too long, so I guess not.
I really like Okami. It's fun. It is just, it just drags on a little bit.
The funny thing was that the people playing it for the first time on PC during the era of modern video games kind of had a bit of a backlash against it, going like, why did we like this again? Other than that, it's pretty. It's like very tedious, I guess. I haven't played it in ages, and I still haven't been meaning to get around to playing the PC version again.
It's a Zelda game. It's really what it is.
With a dog.
With a dog, yeah.
Okay.
And you got to do like touch control stuff.
Oh, yeah, they're doing that with the Switch, too, with the Joy-Con, apparently, with the Celestial Brush. I don't know what that is. Luigi's Mansion 3DS remake coming in 2018 as well, so yay.
Yo, but you're burying the good news.
Which
I'm sorry.
is-
WarioWare coming to 3DS.
Where?
For the 3DS,
I thought they were
though?
done with that series. Thank goodness.
100% actually gonna play that.
Yeah.
WarioWare
Is
is
that
good.
Mario Tennis and WarioWare?
I
Two
hope it's
killer
got all the
apps.
unlockables from the original, where you could get those stupid toys and play around with them in your workshop.
Mhm.
Remember that stuff? There was like the little music toys and like drums and stuff you could play with. There's unlockables for doing really well in the games.
In micro games? Or
Yeah. In the original DS version.
Oh, the DS version. Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were referring to the original
Sorry, I
WarioWare
forgot.
Mega Micro games on the Game Boy
I
Advance.
played that one a lot too. I thought the DS version might have been the best one, but they're all good.
Ryan's a WarioWare connoisseur. He knows his stuff.
No, I like it too.
It's getting up to 300 micro games in a single package. WarioWare Gold. Wow.
I'm glad. I'm glad they're bringing it back.
Mario
Mario and Luigi, I think, is being ported.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick
Yo,
asked,
what is that? Because I know they made that already, but it's like the
Well,
game
it's-
again with
well,
a
A
it's
different
remake
story?
of the critically acclaimed Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story.
okay, it's the remake. Yep. There you
Mhm.
go. Cool. I mean, it's an RPG, so
Mm-hmm.
it's fun. Again, Direct felt kind of lukewarm. And for those, and I know one in particular, but those Splatoon nuts out there, Splatoon 2 is getting an expansion pack, and they're pumped for it. And they get to play as Octolings, which look the same to me as like the Squid Kid people, but apparently they're different, and I don't know how.
Well, they're based on an octopus.
They
whereas
literally
Yeah,
look the same.
Exactly.
Squid is based on a squid. So
Well, it's like they're two different things.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I'm talking about the characters in the game look exactly the same.
see, the thing
Squid,
is, though,
Squid's got like a.
Is that
like a
racist?
pointy, Squid's got a pointy head.
yeah,
Gotcha.
Squid's got six
Octopus
heads.
has got like a round head.
I'm a fish racist.
So they all have
Right.
the 3 pointed teeth?
Really?
They do.
I
See,
don't
chat
know.
said they do look the same, but it's hype as hell. See, I don't get that.
Octopus has like
I don't understand.
octopus has like a bird beak.
Yeah, they have little beaks.
Well, the kid squids have it's a pointy tooth in the middle and then 2 pointy teeth on the sides.
Right.
So the octolings must have bird beaks then. That's the
Maybe.
differentiating.
It's literally shorter hair. They're saying so.
Okay.
There you
Mhm.
go.
Sweet, man. Okay. Anything else from the direct you guys are pumped about? It's a pretty good direct. That was a lot of
Solaire amiibo. I'm getting it.
Solaire amiibo. There you go.
I haven't bought an amiibo. Lie, actually. I bought an amiibo for the first time in a long time the other day, and it was the Shovel Knight one because it was on clearance, and it was the last one. I brought it home, and I already had one, and I didn't know.
And
I
you couldn't
made
return
my
it because it was
mistake.
on clearance, right?
Yeah,
That
no,
owns.
it's right there. It's on clearance.
Well,
I
there's
will
a chance all Toys R Us are
See?
going out of business in the US, so
Clearance,
maybe
bought
you
it.
clear all of those out.
I
Yeah.
already
I
have
feel
one.
like the concept of the amiibo is great, but I saw the promo image of it and it looked like, personally, I thought it looked like garbage. So, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting like $100 figurine quality Solaire, but I was like, that looks cheap.
It's an amiibo. It's not gonna.
It's
yeah,
an amiibo. Yeah, I don't know what I was
Praise the sun chat.
Yeah.
expecting. Just
Massive-
the concept of a Solaire. So, it's like, you guys, I think, are all in roughly the same camp. But when I started playing Dark Souls in 2011,
Yeah.
the Dark Souls subreddit got crazy hype because this one dude was like, I'm going to take Solaire's shirt, like his armor, and make it a hoodie. And there was like a 4-month saga. Okay, I've been talking to the printers, and it's going to cost this much for the hoodies. And like, can we get enough people to sign the petition that they're going to buy the hoodie? So I don't even know if it ever came to fruition.
Probably not.
So for it to come from that level of like, we don't even know if we can justify the existence of a shirt to
an amiibo,
Nintendo
Nintendo?
making an amiibo for it, that's like a crazy ascendance.
I'm gonna get
Definitely.
one.
I just really hope they didn't take out the ability to just unlock it by walking up to Solaire to do the Praise the Sun. They wouldn't do that though, right? That's too much.
I mean, that's along the same fears as people trying to tell me they took the corruption out of Shadow of the Colossus and made it DLC. Like I don't think that's the truth.
A lot of time with the amiibos, what they do is they let you, like, for the Odyssey like wedding ones, if you use it, you get the wedding outfits right away. But if you play the game, you get them naturally. Like, you're just gonna get them at the normal way in the game anyway. I figured that's what they're gonna do. I just got to send somebody in to get it for me. It's a GameStop exclusive. I can't go in there.
That's like the line I feel most people are fine with, right? Where as long as there's a way to get it without having to pay for it, that typically makes
Well,
it.
I don't know. Like I take even like a softer stance for something like in this, it would be worse because they're taking it out. They would have been taking it out hypothetically.
Yeah.
But it is just like a cosmetic thing that doesn't really matter, in my opinion. So
It's surprisingly central, though, to people's love of the game because of the established narrative of it.
Because of the way like the place that it has in Dark Souls heart, it would be bad if they did it. But whenever there's like, hey, there's like DLC on the amiibo, and the only way to get it is via the amiibo, I'm like, I think that's fine. Like,
as long as
it's
like
like a shirt or something, I don't care.
As long as
if
they
it's
don't rip
like
like a
the final boss, you got to scan this amiibo at the last second.
You
That's
can't
garbage.
You can't fight the Nameless King without the Nameless King amiibo.
Exactly.
Spoilers, Jesus.
Because that's like in Dark Souls 3, they do that. Like to get to the optional area, you have to do a unique gesture
Pose.
in like a specific spot on the map. So
And then wait.
yeah.
Little Nightmares Complete Edition also coming to the Switch May 18th.
Cool.
If you haven't checked that out, I recommend it. It's very
good game.
good.
Yeah.
The last bit of DLC just came out on PC just like a week ago.
So that'll include that. The Complete Edition will have all the past DLC on the Switch. So that's good.
Give me a Little Nightmares amiibo. I would buy that too. Give me a
You
little.
want like the little conehead guy on the...
I'll
on
get a
the-
little thumb monster or like the kid in the raincoat. I'll take
Yeah.
it. I'd buy that. Give me a 3-pack. Give me the kid, 9, and the little thumb monster. Done.
4-pack with an Octoling.
All right, sure. Throw it in there. Oh yeah, are we gonna get Sands and Papyrus amiibos? I would buy those in a
I
heartbeat.
feel like
too.
an Undertale amiibo is a good idea.
It would sell a lot.
It would make $1 million billion. Yeah.
It really would.
All right.
Everybody watching right now is like, I hate that you're right.
That's true.
I'm so cynical about it, but yes, I would pay $20 for the Sans figurine.
It's like all the same people that hate it so much are going to be first in line to go grab the damn thing. Yeah, that's basically the gist of the Direct. It's, looking pretty good. Nintendo still on the right track. Cool.
Yep.
Let's talk BLOPS for a minute. It was a major day, really, yesterday. A few big releases were announced. Chief among them, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which, okay, let's address the biggest issue, first of all. They did the Roman numerals wrong. What the hell's the matter with
No,
Was it you,
This-
Ryan, that said it yesterday or on Twitter?
No, there's tallies as well.
That's what
Like,
I figured.
Right.
It's also dumb, I agree. But all the pseudo-intellectuals tripping over each, that's not how you make a 4 in Roman numerals. There's tallies. There's tally marks.
We'll know when they get to 5.
Yeah,
Very
if they
true.
do a B, all of a sudden, whoa, hey.
So
hold on a
here's
second.
Tired is complaining about it being not Roman numerals. Wired is realizing that they made it look like tally marks so that it conjures the image of a Call of Duty supply crate microtransaction.
Oh, I thought there was going to be a Galaxy brain to that, too.
That is a Galaxy Brain. Look
Oh,
at the logo. It looks like a loot crate.
And for 5, there's a strike through the tallies.
Look at the logo. I know in your head you're like, how does it?
It does.
It's a cube.
It does.
They made a cuboid logo.
Just give it a lid and pop it open, and there's your dog tags.
I'm not saying that they're doing it to
God.
subconsciously make you buy more supply crates, because I think that's too far. But as soon as I looked at it, I said, because it looked exactly the same as when I clicked the Twitch Prime crown, and it goes like you got Call of Duty World War II supply crates that are unopened, and I was like, it's the same logo.
Watch the deluxe edition will come in a box that looks like the 4 tally marks.
Yep. Cool.
wish-
It's coming out.
I wish I was as influential as James Harden, and that Activision would pay me a bunch of money to wear a hat with those tally marks on it before the podcast. You know, I need that Activision money. Sadly, I'm not James Harden.
You are
Although
not.
I'm trying to be James Harden with the beard. I'm getting
yeah.
close. BLOPS 4, though, yeah, it's happening. Call of Duty is coming out this year. In other news, water remains wet. The sky's still blue, although in the Pacific Northwest, you wouldn't really know it. And, I guess that does it.
If this is a formality that we're getting another Black Ops, which I think we all expected would be reasonable, what do we get after the Black Ops one? Because now we've done World War II,
Mhm.
and we've exited, I think, the era of futuristic Call of Duty. So what next?
Do
Well,
we restart the loop?
You really you got to remember it's a 3-year cycle. So
Yeah, I know.
So there's the Sledgehammer one, or wait, no, There's the Infinity.
I'm pulling up the list.
Whoever
Lord
makes
one.
it, what is the direction of it is really all I'm asking.
Oh, it's already 70% done, so we gotta
Right, yeah.
just hold out hope that it's something. I
Vietnam?
don't know, what do we care? I guess like
When are we gonna get Call of Duty Revolutionary War?
we're not gonna play it. Or one of us will play it for 2 hours. And then
I've played mostly all of them for 2 hours or 4 hours, maybe.
It is still fun to kind of make fun of Call of Duty, though, because they're just, it's at this point, it's a parody of itself. BLOPS 4. Where is there to go? That's the legitimate question. Where do they go from here? But I guess
Far Cry Primal style.
Yeah.
Caveman Wars.
Tribal warfare.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. Anyway, that's the gist of it. And another big announcement from yesterday: Ubisoft announces Division 2 is coming out as well. So yay, that's a thing that's happening.
Not surprised, honestly. Apparently, the game is in an incredibly good spot right now.
It got a bit of a resurgence after. Well, what was it really that led
the
people
last
to get back to
patch?
the Division? Was it the patch? Yeah, I think it was the patch that got people back into it.
They redid a bunch of stuff. I don't know the details, so don't look to me. All I know is that they redid a bunch of stuff, and people really loved the changes they made. So a lot of people came back to it, and it's healthy. It's not like booming, but it's got a healthy player base. Enough where maybe I'll check it out. But I'm cautiously optimistic for the Division 2. I just hope it doesn't become like a Destiny 2 where it's like the Division 1 day 1 all over again.
Yeah,
That's like the problem with
yeah.
Destiny 2.
I'm a bit skeptical about this and really kind of surprised, honestly, that Ubisoft is doing this because it sort of seems more like the big players, Ubisoft, EA, Activision, those guys are starting to lean more heavily toward the games as a service model. And that's become obvious with a lot more of the microtransactions showing up too. But like, if they have a game that has a healthy player base in the form of the Division, and I don't really like, I guess I should maybe come at this from the perspective of I don't really play the Division a lot, so I don't really know the answer to this question. But like, what are they looking to add to the game that they really need a sequel for if the whole idea is let's just keep the games that we've already made going and make those better, especially because they're apparently doing updates to the first one too.
I mean, all speculation, of course, but one of the things I feel like is like their initial kind of failed launch of the Division lost a lot of players, and no matter how good they make the Division from here on out, a lot of that player base are never going to come back.
Yeah.
So doing a fresh launch with the Division 2 gives that second chance where all new players can get in at ground zero and not have to fight all the people who've been playing for a year or two.
So we're releasing new games as marketing, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I very much so.
So it could be a properly integrated service that we then won't need to reach.
Right.
But I also hope that they kind of learned some lessons from the first game, unlike Destiny. And I would love I know the Dark Zone is where most people play. I'd love a Dark Zone that's almost a huge map in and of itself, and not a small subsection of the main map, where player versus player is constant and not something you have to go to a very small area to do. That was something I really wanted out of the Division 1, was that idea.
You get grief, man.
I like that kind of thing, though, like in the survival mode that they have in Division now, that Battle Royale that they've had is really good, and I hope they kind of expand on that and do more with it in Division 2. So
That's fair. Yeah. I think I kind of welcome maybe the possibility of AAA releasing far fewer games because like there's so much already. We're inundated at this point, and nobody's buying $5 or $6 $60 games at Christmas anymore, right? I'm pretty sure anyway that's not really happening anymore. So like it would be better, I think, for them to just focus entirely on the Division. But if there are really like significant improvements to be made, not to mention, like you said, they do have the incentive of trying to get back those players that are certainly lost and never to return. I guess
it's been like, by the time it comes out, it'll have been 3 years or something as well, which is a fairly reasonable gap between games.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's an annualized sequel or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
I just hope they do not do what Destiny 2 did.
Yeah, and that's another, like, that's the final point, really, is if they are going to do this, which clearly they are, then they really have to nail the launch, because if the whole point is to try to get people back, they have to make sure that they're going to be latching on from day one. Otherwise, they're going to repeat that cycle.
And the kind of irony is I don't really trust Ubisoft to nail it on day one,
Yeah.
based on their track record.
Well,
but I do trust that if it comes out and it's decent, it'll get better, which is weird. But
refresh my memory, was the For Honor launch? I thought that was fairly smooth.
I think it was like it's just followed a very similar trajectory to Rainbow Six in my head, at least, which was like people were like, "This is pretty fun," and then after like a week, people were like, like the P2P server stuff and the weird pseudo PVE kind of being the main mode, and then people being able to disconnect and migrating hosts taking forever. Like it just kind of became a point where it was not worth the squeeze anymore.
Look at this with me then, because Ubisoft has this pattern, and I'm becoming more and more convinced they're making the wrong decision here, because they're really good at putting out games that aren't that great at the start and then figuring out what's wrong with them, making them better, and all of a sudden getting the community back. That happened with The Division, that happened with Siege, that happened kind of with For Honor, although now it's sort of teetering off again. But like, they're weirdly good at it, so why do the sequel again if they're gonna keep doing that?
The most money is to be made in a speculative period right before a game is released, and as soon as that game is released and collides with reality, everything shifts for the worse. So the more times they can get that speculative period back, the more potential could exist.
But they're one of the guys releasing the least, I don't want to say the least amount of games, but the least sequels lately, at least. It took a year off for Assassin's Creed, and then between Primal and Far Cry 5, they took 2 years. And Siege, they could have come out with a Rainbow Six Siege 2, probably at this point, but it's been 3 years since launch, or 2.5, and they're still
they're going like year
committed to that. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I kind of feel like they're doing a model that is not necessarily bad. Like when there's a mistake in a game, they're not saying like, okay, in 18 months we'll have that fixed in the sequel that'll be $60. They're like, if you hang around, we're gonna make this better, and hopefully there will be an audience for it when it happens.
And they do have a good track record for that now, of actually improving it and listening to the concerns of the community and making it better. So that's good too.
Even For Honor, and I've been saying this for months, and it's below the surface. There's gonna be I don't want to say an eruption, but it's gonna break the surface at some point. I'm telling you, this game is gonna, a year and a half from now or 6 months from now, probably one of you guys is gonna be like, we should really check out For Honor again. Because first off, we all already own it, and I've been hearing good stuff recently about the new things.
I've already been hearing good stuff recently about it from Sam.
No, it's Mathis then.
Sam.
They added dedicated servers.
I was say Sam said they added dedicated servers. They rebalanced every class, so
that's good. Okay, yeah,
they're already working on it.
See, this is what I'm saying. Like, they're obviously proven to be good at this model. So,
but the difference between these types of games and the Division is like Destiny 2. It's loot based, right? There's levels and skills and loot, and you can't really reset people back to ground zero with that stuff.
I mean, new characters.
I mean, yeah, you can, but like, you can't do that and then maintain a good player base. You can't just rip everything away. You have to give a sequel to get everybody back on the even playing field again. And no, there's no loot in Siege and For Honor that matters, more or less.
Right, yeah. That makes sense. Cool. All right, well,
there you go.
The Division 2, that'll be this year, I believe, is what they're saying. So looking forward to more news about that.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about Valve real quick. Kind of in a similar vein here. Valve is planning on making and shipping games again. Quite the surprising development, considering they're making money hand over fist and don't really need to do anything. Maybe they're just bored and want to make things a little better in the industry. But yeah, Valve planning on making and shipping games again, starting with their next game, Artifact, which is that Dota card game that everyone's super pumped for.
I remember when they announced that at TI last year, and everybody was like excited, and then the audience is like, ooh.
Just the loudest groan to be heard through the entire gaming world. Yeah, so Artifact is probably not the most exciting facet of this, to be honest. I think the unknowns are going to be what people get the most excited about here. You know, there's plenty of third games in a series that folks are looking for, not to
Portal 3
one in particular, but yeah, well, Portal 3 too, yeah, no kidding. Like, I think people would be pretty thrilled with that. But there's a lot of properties they've got that just sort of left out to dry, and you know, there's
Dota 3.
Yeah, Dota 3. Can you actually imagine them making Dota 3? Like,
yes.
The world would explode.
All of their games have been left off on a cliffhanger, which is so annoying.
Yeah.
Except Dota.
Except Dota, right.
we know all
won?
about Dota.
The Dire or the Radiant? I don't know.
But all their single player games with campaigns, man, all of them have been left on a cliffhanger that'll never be answered.
Well, except for maybe now, right?
No. This is like, I think this is like a cautionary tale for every corporate entity of like making something too good. Like this is what happens when you reach a certain level of success where your fans actually feel like they have some ownership of the property and they're mad at you because you won't complete the trilogy for them. Like,
I agree.
You gotta go be a speaker and caution companies about the dangers of over success.
I mean, hey, you should have just made Half-Life 2 like a little worse, and then you wouldn't have had this problem. You still would have sold a lot of copies. Steam will still exist, but you wouldn't have this issue.
It's the endless fervor that never resolves that just bugs me to hell. Like, it's almost like I want to just delete everyone that talks about Half-Life 3. Just you bad rats. I just don't want to hear the word ever again.
Agreed, dude. And it's this cycle of like, we hate Ubisoft. We love Valve. And then Valve does something. We hate Valve. We love CD Projekt Red. And then it's like CD Projekt Red pays its programmers $4 an hour. That's like a living. We hate CD Projekt Red. Now we like the studio that makes Warframe. Like people are always looking for like the champion of the developers and the publishers and the consumers. And
but you can
like,
always
this is the villain we hate right now.
You can always hate EA.
CA.
Mm-hmm.
You always hate EA though. When do you like EA?
Yeah. Very
1995?
Rarely. You guys remember Battlefield Hardline?
Barely.
Like 2008 or so?
No, that was like 2014.
Yeah, Hardline was way more recent.
Oh,
yeah,
fuck.
that was the cops and robbers one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that went super well.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So I want to tie this back to another story that we brought up a few months ago too. The fact that Valve mentioned that they were working on several full-fledged VR titles. So this gives me even more confidence that that is indeed happening, and that just like that's the one last little shrivel of hope that I've got left inside me for VR to really blossom is for Valve to basically save it, for Gabe Newell to come as the second coming of Christ for VR and make the greatest game experience known to man. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to play it once Gabe makes it, and it's going to change my life.
See, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly. You are the issue, man. You are the problem.
I don't want to be rude, but you know.
I was the Half-Life 3 fanboy who was clamoring for it forever, man, until I finally grew up. And I realized the world is a cold, empty place where nothing you want ever happens.
The world's a cold, empty place because this billion-dollar corporation won't release the third instance of a product I want.
Why would they make it? I want it.
Well, I think most of your childhood happiness died with Last Guardian Bear. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
that was what killed
it. Still, I like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a cool character design.
Yeah, it's cute. He just sucks. I am genuinely excited about this though, because I think Valve, I think I even said this in as many words before, Valve is up there with like the upper echelon of devs, up there with like Rockstar and Blizzard and those guys.
Really? Still?
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Like the lab is, I still say this, the lab is honestly like the perfect VR demo. It is so good.
Yeah, I agree.
And like everything I've played by them, I've loved. Like Portal is incredible. Half-Life is incredible. Counter-Strike sucks. Dota's okay.
Well, I mean, like, I agree that they do have kind of like that Blizzard pedigree where, like, as much as people are like, Artifact, I'm like, I really expect Artifact to be really good.
Well, someone in chat pointed out that they brought in the lead designer from Magic the Gathering to work on Artifact.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's cool. Yeah, they're not going to be, they have somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know if I have room in my life for another collectible card game that I have to dump money into.
How many card games does anyone need to play?
How many are you guys playing right now?
I'm done. I'm
zero.
Out. Yeah,
zero, right? Yeah, I'm not
playing.
playing
Slay the Spire, but that's not really like.
That doesn't count. I'm talking about ones you have to buy packets for, like Hearthstone or Gwent or the Elder Scrolls one that's maybe Legends, like 3 people are probably playing. And
is that Legends or? what is that one called?
Which one?
You might be right. I think
The
it might be
Elder
Elder
Scrolls
Scrolls
Legends.
Legends.
Yeah.
I think it is Legends. Yeah.
And then there's that really anime-y one, Shadowverse.
Shadowverse, yeah.
That's like people really like that one. This is just too many.
TB was talking about another one recently too, wasn't he? The name's leaving me. Can't remember, but yeah, there's several.
Hearthstone.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's right.
They're very mechanics driven games. There's not very much room to play with ideas there beyond this card and this card make a cool thing happen, right?
Right.
So with that in mind, how are there so many and why do so many people keep playing new ones? What is there to iterate upon other than I have my own cards with my own game and UI?
I mean,
There's different, like, each game opens up like a different design space. As much as they are samey, like something like Duelist, which adds in the ability to like place cards on a grid and then like their positioning actually affects their abilities. That opens up design space that doesn't exist in something like Hearthstone. And as much as it seems like a minor difference, even in Hearthstone versus Magic the Gathering, in Magic, you can't target attacks. Like you only, so I mean, you know this obviously, but you just say like, I'm attacking with these creatures. You don't say I'm attacking this with this, I'm attacking this with this, except for like Planeswalker directing damage. But in Hearthstone, being able to actually target individual units adds a different design space as well.
And Gwent
like,
is all about managing your score number versus their score number, and not about attacking at all. It's just about managing a number mathematically.
Yeah, it has like a certain like bluff element associated with it as well. They all do have like something
You can kind of look
different
at
going on with them.
You can look at the collectible card game as like a base level genre, right? Like a platformer is, and then you just got all those different derivatives of that you build off of.
I do, and I was kind of making this weird comparison in my head. They're a bit like JRPGs in that they all have different versions of a teenager with spiky hair. And I mean, I just feel like there's so little gameplay other than cards, and that frustrates me. So I guess, I don't see the point.
For the most part, you're usually right? Like, with Hearthstone, there's very little gameplay apart from the cards. So yeah, that's true.
At some point, like in any competitive card game, you're just executing an algorithm over and over. Like in contrast to something like, I mean, if you really want to be needlessly reductive, I guess you're doing that in every game ever. But in Hearthstone specifically, you're like, I have this deck, and this is the way you play the deck. I look for this pattern, and then I just do it as optimally as possible. Specifically, like, people on the other team are probably also going to be playing a deck you've seen 10 times before, and like, oh, this is what their win condition is, and I have to, like, get in there and stop it or blah, blah, blah. But, like, I feel like that's really satisfying, though. Like, I really enjoy it versus, like, I don't know. I'm 100% or like 95% mechanics driven. So when I play a story driven game that is not mechanically that interesting, and I hit my first little point of resistance, like I don't know where to go, I'm out. Whereas in a mechanics driven game, when I lose, I'm like, okay, why did I lose and how can I get better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. I mean, I just am wrong, but that's fine. I clearly touched a nerve in chat. That's fine.
That's why I'm not excited, but like optimistic for Artifact is because, yeah, okay, maybe is it designed to take like $100 out of your wallet? Maybe. But I'm interested to see how they do. It's basically a competitive strategy game that also has a certain element of like loot associated with it. It's like, I'm interested to see how Valve does that and kind of get in on the ground floor of strategies if the game ends up being any good, rather than in Hearthstone right now where you're buying into a game that's existed for like 4 years and the barrier to entry is enormous.
That's my biggest fear when it comes to any digital card game, is that the longer it's out, the harder it is for you to get into it later on in its lifespan, because you have to, a lot of them, like Hearthstone, you have to dump money in to be competent at any level above shit tier. So, and that always pushes me away from these types of games over time. Like Hearthstone was something I really enjoyed casually for a while, but then when 3 or 4 or 5 expansion packs piled onto it, and I was like, I'm not gonna put in, all these people dumping $100 into booster packs or $60 for booster packs. That's like buying a new game every single time an expansion comes out.
Yeah.
I don't really want.
Yeah, that's a pervasive problem with those games too. Is that
it's the thing that drove me away from Magic, man. I realized, like, I was really into Magic for a while, but then 6 months later, I realized every 2 months I was throwing out hundreds of dollars. looking to get that card or really finish my deck, or buying very specific cards for a good chunk of money. I'll never forget, we were at a convention and we saw Jace, which was I needed for my blue deck. It was like 30 something bucks, and I was like, I'll wait till he gets cheaper. A month later, he's like $120. I was like, well, fuck. Like, I guess I'm not doing this anymore.
Cardboard with text written on it. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah, but a game is just a piece of metal with like, or it's through Steam, you're paying for code. You're buying code off of Steam that executes on your computer.
Well, I'm getting varieties of video and flashing lights. I mean, if Mathis is buying pieces of paper with writing on them,
but you're getting the experience out of it as well. Like,
if you enjoy the experience,
in this digital era. Okay, let's start making a podcast about buying corn and barrels of pork and stuff like that. Like, these are not. It's not about. We live when we're in the entertainment world. You're not buying a commodity. Like, you're buying an experience, basically.
Yes.
Moreover, as messed up as it is, the cardboard has substantially more resale value. It's actually tangibly worth more than the games that you're buying on Steam. It's literally a better investment, even as absurd as it is.
I really want to do this porn. Never mind. I'm done.
You really want to do a porn?
want to do this porn, man. We got to get this done. It's important.
Well, dude, that could be the name of the corn podcast.
Porn?
Porn.
Oh, just call it corn.
Sure.
I'm
all right.
lost.
What's next?
We got a fun topic to jump right into here. We're gonna talk about violence in video games. Oh boy. Hey, so the White House uploaded a sizzle reel, a montage.
The White House.
Amy Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse uploaded something real controversial. The White House uploaded a 90-second montage of violence in video games. I believe it was even titled that, Violence in Video Games. No description, no sources, no extra information, nothing. Just the worst violence they could find in every game from 2008 and put together in a little video and put up on the internet. Apparently, this was used in the meeting that the administration had with a few game industry execs. This is as close to political as we'll ever get on this show, by the way. They just sort of dragged us into it again.
Dude.
But,
oh, God.
So stupid, dude. If they were smart, they would have put it on YouTube and just made it like 180 seconds of the hottest frags. And they'd get like 10 million views.
That would be the best.
Somebody tweeted, they said they fixed it and they just put Linkin Park's in the end or something.
That's so good. Dude, it's such a weird comparison, but hear me out. Like, looking at this video and what's being presented here brings me back to what we were talking about before we even were live today. The Hollow Moon theory thing, right? Like, so I did this other paranormal podcast and we covered Hollow Moon, and all that takes to fall apart is critical thinking. Once you put a little thought into that kind of thing, the whole thing falls apart. The same can be applied to this dumb video. The minute you take a second and think, it's like, well, first of all, every country has access to violent video games. Why are we the only ones that it's affecting? And two, what about almost everything in this video is cutscene related. So you have no input and you can't do anything about it. Could you then not say the same exact thing about movies, TV shows, books, or anything with violence in it? Sermons.
Sorry, I don't want to go down that road necessarily. But...
The Bible has a ton of violence in it. Why? Why? Because it's stupid and it's a scapegoat. The end.
We were talking before the show today about we don't even want to talk about this again. We're so tired of beating this drum. It's the same argument but being made by a lot of the same people of it's the video games to blame. They're the ones that are ruining violence is not caused by video games. If you haven't heard the shtick before, we'll give it to you again right here. There's no correlation. There have been dozens of studies done. No proof whatsoever that there is a link.
Somewhere Jack Thompson just got a raging hard on out of nowhere.
He's had one for at least a year and a half now, I swear to God.
Well, he was in prison for a while, wasn't he?
He was disbarred.
He was disbarred.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of being in prison.
Right.
They took the bar away.
That actually would be it, yeah. He's been I don't know, I think he's been talking more lately because he's got a mouthpiece finally, and Right. And it's I hate it, man. I hate that we even have to entertain this idea once more, because I truly did think we had moved past it. I really believed that. Like, okay, do you finally realize it's not the video game's fucking fault? Like, we don't have to talk about this anymore. But
what do you think when we get old, are we gonna blame? When
That's a
we're
good
like
question,
50 or 60, what new media is going to come out that confuses and scares old brains? Right. Is it going to be AI and sex bots that we're going to blame?
Sex bots are going to destroy society. And I actually believe that now without them even existing yet, and without me being an old person.
Twitter.
We already blame Twitter.
I'm already there, but like Twitter.
It's stupid. It's stupid.
Nick, what do you want to blame the youth's demise on in the future?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait until we're in the future to know what the options are. But it's probably not going to be media. I really don't think it's going to be that.
Yeah.
I think we need some proof before we get to that.
So this meeting was between several game industry executives, including okay, hold on, I have the list here. There we go. It's
Donald Trump.
Yep, he was there. Robert Altman, the CEO of ZeniMax, was there. Strauss Zelnick, chief executive of Take-Two, and ESA head Michael Gallagher was also there. So the ESA made presence in the meeting, which is good to know. They also released some comments as well, which were kind of reassuring to me, and I'll go ahead and read them here. ESA said, "We welcome the opportunity today to meet with the president and other elected officials at the White House. We discussed the numerous scientific studies establishing that there is no connection between video games and violence, First Amendment protection on video games, and how our industry's rating system effectively helps parents make informed entertainment choices. We appreciate the president's receptive and comprehensive approach to this discussion." All the talking points that they were trying to hammer home about what's wrong with the industry, the ESA immediately coming out and saying, "No, we were already on it. You remember 10 years ago how everybody was really pissed off at us? We figured it out then, and now we're good."
It's a pattern, man. In the 80s, they were blaming porn. Porn was
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons was Satan's game for a long time. It really was. Like D&D.
Mortal Kombat, yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie? All right. Have you ever seen the movie with Tom
Mazes
Hanks?
and Monsters.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so good because it's so bad.
It's got Tom Hanks in it.
Yeah, it was like
Tom Hanks becomes possessed by his character from he has like a psychotic break because of Dungeons and Dragons, and he drives to New York and kills somebody, and then
because he thinks they're like a monster.
Yeah,
in the real life,
like the Crystal
adventure.
of Midori or something.
Yeah, and he was getting to like the top of like the Empire State Building or something, and he was like gonna jump.
Yeah, he was gonna kill himself, but they stopped him. But they stopped him using Dungeons and Dragons. They were like, "You don't have the initiative to take another action."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. And at the end, like he think like they think he gets through, like, and he's like back to normal. But at the very end, they're like talking with him like in a field or something, and he starts talking like his character again. It's like this whole tragic ending.
It's really good.
It's an amazing movie. You should watch it. It's so good.
So it's a bunch of nonsense, man. The fact that this video, it's an unlisted video, so I feel like slightly better that they didn't just put it up publicly to basically spread propaganda, but I mean, it is available, the link's around, and it's being spread, so.
Well, the great thing about it happening now, and as compared to when it was happening like 10 years ago, is that the internet exists, and it's really easy to just make a meme out of it.
That's true. I mean, they already did.
But, you know, talking about things earnestly on occasion is a good idea as well, because memes can actually muddy the waters too, as we've seen.
Yeah, just ask the DSA.
The who?
DSA.
The who? No, the DSA.
The DSA.
Democratic. See, the thing is like it was a joke, and then not having awareness of it has made me make it a real thing, which I don't want to do.
Okay.
So if you have trouble understanding where to land on this argument, just keep in mind that the whole world has access to video games and only the US has a problem with gun violence. So if that's the only point you need, that kind of refutes it right there.
Again, a little bit of critical thinking blows the case wide.
But don't stop there. Keep
research.
Thinking, keep looking.
Research. Do your research.
And also don't censor media, please.
Okay, cool. That was fun. Let's talk about some games.
Yeah.
Let's start with Dungreed. So, Ryan, you didn't play. Kate played
I did
this,
not.
right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Kate played this one. Dungreed. It's a 2D side-scrolling game. It's a roguelite made by Team Hooray, who I believe are Korean. And it is quite good. I've played a few hours of it so far, and I'm really digging it. Also watched a bit of my boy Sleep Cycles playing it this week as well. He's been really into it too. It's got a few elements of games you know and love. It's got a little bit of that Rogue Legacy mix in there, where you've got that progressive upgrade system as you go. It's got some. Well, I guess this is not really particular to any game anymore, but it's got like the Gungeon slash what's the other? It's got the teleportation of rooms thing. That's it. You can teleport between rooms in the map. You can upgrade your little town as you go. So you'll be going through the levels, and as you go, you'll collect characters to bring them back to town, build buildings in the town, and get upgrades that way. And there's a lot of incentive to progress and proceed and unlock, and it's just got a fairly good loop to it.
Is it early access or full release?
Full release, I believe. So
Sweet.
$10 out now. Came out on Valentine's Day, and yeah, no early access. It's all done.
Does it compare favorably? I have two specific questions. Does it compare favorably to Rogue Legacy? And is the moment-to-moment combat enjoyable? Because from what I've watched, those are the two things that interests me. Is like Rogue Legacy is so good that is an imitator and doesn't quite come close to it. Is it worth playing? Maybe yes, maybe no. And then the second thing is the combat does look a little floaty to me, but I would like you to speak on it.
Yeah, I'll say it looks less fun than it is to play. I found anyway. So when I was playing it, I enjoyed it a little bit more than I expected to. It's very comparable to Rogue Legacy, both in the mechanics department and as far as the general gameplay goes. It kind of feels very similar combat-wise. I don't know if I'd call it floaty. I do feel I've got control for the most part, and the dash works fairly well too, I'd say. Like using mouse and keyboard controls, I think you've got a good sense of where you can go for the most part and what your limitations are. So it's well made, I think, in that respect. And then like I'm trying to parse out all the other elements of what you said. We got the combat and then the floatiness, and then
how's it compared to Rogue Legacy?
You're right. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, like it's got the progressive upgrades, and that's just, I don't know, man. Like that just seems like if it ain't broke, don't fix it at this point, because it just works well. It's very similar, but it does the job in incentivizing you to keep going through the loop. So they've added enough to it to make it interesting there.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite kind of like interlocking gameplay setups is when you have like a world you go out into, like Rogue Legacy or
10 million.
10 million, yeah, you have to build a boat like exactly like that, where like you go out and you're like, oh, I made it like 10% of the way in, but I got resources, I came back and I upgraded like my other area, and now I can make it 14% of the way in, and I get you just
like you can have a 10-minute run that you feel like a failure in, but you at least still did something. You made a little semblance of progress in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Feel good. They've got a good variety of weaponry as well. I like that there's both melee and range stuff, and the range stuff has a good amount of variety to it. There's like a blunderbuss and a rifle and a crossbow and a normal bow and all kinds of different shit. There's magic apparently too. There's some stuff that I have yet to find. I've only even gotten to the second boss, and I think there's 4 floors, Spelunky style, I want to say, maybe even 5. I haven't gotten all the way through to find out, but it's tough too, is the thing. It's actually surprisingly difficult. I got my ass kicked the first few times, and then I was like, this game sucks, I don't want to play this game. And then I realized that I was just mad because I was bad, and I kept going, and it turns out that it's pretty damn good, in fact. And yeah, I want to go back to the combat too, because that is, like, as I was watching it, I was wondering, it doesn't really look like it's that fun. But like I said, I think it's a lot more fun to play than it is to watch, honestly, because it's like you got a couple different things you're thinking about as you're going. You got like the map layout, you got the build that you want to make for the boss, because that is kind of a thing too. You want to make sure that you are ready for the boss at the end of the stage with the items that you've got, because the bosses are different. Well, like they're the same boss at the end of every stage, but they're different from each other. Like the strategy that you want to use to attack them is a little bit different. So you want to like have a ranged weapon for some, you want to have a close proximity weapon that can attack quickly for some, things like that. There is the matter though of that sort of creating a little bit of staleness, like something I was even talking with Sleep Cycles about this morning is that we sort of wish it had a Gungeon style system where the bosses would kind of cycle out or like change between a few different bosses for the end of the floors. I think that would add a little bit more variety and probably make things a little more interesting. But like I said, there is kind of a bit of strategy involved with building the specific kit to get that boss taken care of better. So that's, I don't know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, I suppose.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression from watching people play it and hearing Kate talk about it that unlike other roguelites, it really is like it's much more like Rogue Legacy, where you're like, I've beaten it and now I don't necessarily need to touch it. Like maybe I'll do New Game Plus or something like that. But it doesn't seem like you'd beat it and then be like, I'm gonna do 100 more runs or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know how much staying power it's got, but it's if you're looking for something to scratch that Rogue Legacy itch, this is high quality and has a good satisfying loop. Not to mention the combat is satisfying as well.
Is a Dead Cells comparison at all applicable? There's a little bit of a Rogue Legacy thing going on in Dead Cells as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you get down to it, they're both 2D platformers, I guess. But
I meant with the unlock progression and such.
Oh, right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I guess that's true. Yeah. Let me think, because like they are different when you get down to it. Because Rogue Legacy, they had that branching system where you had to connect certain things to get to certain other things. But then with Dead Cells, you've got something where you just have this big list of items that you want to make progress toward, right?
Yeah.
So with this, you've got the town where you have all these different things that you can do. You've got like the weapon shop that you can. Well, first of all, you have to build the weapon shop, so you have to gather enough gold down in the dungeon to be able to build that in the town to have it available. And then you can unlock things through there. You can also go get more like, oh, what's the name of it? They use damn it, I can't remember the word. There's like a specific thing that you can get in the dungeon that you can bring back. And like there's just different areas you can progress that make it like a slightly different incentive system, I suppose, than Rogue Legacy had. But when you get to the core of it, they're very similar. And I suppose it's very similar to Dead Cells as well.
Like this is an aside, but there was something I was thinking about just now when you mentioned Dead Cells, is that I think, again, having not played Dungreed, but in Rogue Legacy versus Dead Cells, like in Dead Cells, when you attack, it feels like the game is like you want to attack this guy. You almost like lock on, and then the attacks have like a visceral feel. And in Rogue Legacy, and what it looks like Dungreed looks like to me, is like you're attacking and the enemy happens to be in the radius of where you're attacking. Yeah, it doesn't feel like quite as... Agreed. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like you're attacking the environment and the enemy is there. And in Dead Cells, you're like, I'm kicking this guy's ass. Like this guy is eating it.
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah, and you kind of nailed it. Where you're just sort of swinging, and you have this hitbox that you're manipulating, and you're hoping that it collides with the other hitbox. Whereas there's like a very deliberate and determined motion in Dead Cells where you're making that move. Yeah, I think you're right about that. And Dungreed certainly has that more loose feel to it of just kind of swinging willy-nilly. It's fun, though. It really is a good time. I've enjoyed it. I'll probably even go back and play a little bit more. Only $10. Not a bad deal. It's pretty anime. I don't know if that really matters to anybody. Like it has like XD and
nice
sort of stuff. So it's
what are those?
So that's a little happy face, man.
XD is anime now.
The music was good too. I liked what I heard at least.
Yeah, it's not bad. It wasn't my favorite, but it fits the game pretty well. Yeah, that's about it. Dungreed, $10. It's out now. Team, hooray!
Hooray!
And let's go into Vermintide 2, yeah? You guys want to talk about that?
I am excited.
Mm-hmm. Mathis, take the floor, man.
Sure. Vermintide 2 is a sequel to Vermintide 1. Surprise, surprise. It is a Warhammer take.
Wait, what kind of Vermintide is it? Is it like...
the End Times Vermintide.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then now, End Times Warhammer Fantasy : Vermintide 2.
Right,
gotcha.
there you go. Yeah, not Warhammer 40K. Totally different. It's their take. It's Fat Shark's take on the Left 4 Dead kind of 4-player horde-based shooter. The first game was good. I really liked it, but they've really fine-tuned it in the second game. So what separates, I'd say, Vermintide from your Left 4 Dead is classes. There's classes that you can play. And then specifically in Vermintide 2, each class has 3 subclasses that you can choose from to play as, and you unlock as you level up your characters. They all play pretty differently. They all have different special abilities. Moreover, it also has a Diablo-esque kind of loot twist to it. Every time you finish a mission, you'll get a loot box that you don't pay anything for. There's no microtransactions. And depending on how well you do in that mission will determine the quality of loot box that you get. And you are randomly given 3 pieces of loot that you can equip to your character. The biggest difference between the first one and the second one is that the loot in the first one was not tied directly to the class that you were playing. You could get loot for any class at all. Whereas in the second one, you're getting loot that is directly tied to the class that you played for that mission. So if you really like mainlining, say, like a Bright Wizard, you're going to get Bright Wizard staffs and daggers and stuff every time you play them. And instead of it just being rats this time, it's rats and chaos, which is a nice mix of variety. It helps kind of alleviate the monotony of shooting the same thing over and over and over again. And each of the rats and the chaos have different, like, more powerful versions of them, kind of like special versions. You've got your typical thing from like Left 4 Dead where you have the rat that'll hook you and drag you away from your party, or the rat that'll be invisible like the hunter zombie and jump on top of you and stab you until somebody comes and saves you. So there is that need to stay close with your friends and help each other out. I've put about 3 hours into it so far. How about you?
Yeah, same.
I got about 6. I played a bunch of hours last night. Fucking love it. I'm like super in on getting addicted to this game. It's got just the right loot grind. It's extremely hard, but when you're functioning well as a team together, it's really fun.
I agree. I really like Vermintide 2 a lot. I liked Vermintide 1. Vermintide 2 it's got more of a hook in me. And I think the reason for that is the subclasses and the way loot is tailored now is really fun.
So like I'm not going to say I'm the dissenting opinion, but I only played like an hour of Vermintide 1 and I just didn't really see the appeal. I found it like super repetitive, but Vermintide 2 I have enjoyed a lot more. And I think, and I still think that maybe we're playing it wrong, but the fact that it's so much harder than my experience was in the first one has actually added like an element of tension that didn't exist. In Vermintide 1, I felt like I was just like clicking left mouse and then like an enemy's here, right click, and then In Vermintide 2, I really feel like you have to play it much more strategically. I don't know, maybe it's the class I'm playing even.
What do you play?
The Dwarf Lord.
Okay, the guy with the hammer.
Yeah. So I gave him a shield, which I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but I definitely feel like instead of just mashing the button, I'm like kiting enemies and then getting like a huge group of them and then shield bashing them and half of them fall down and then you just smack them while they're on the ground and you slowly like whittle a crowd down, like half of the crowd at a time. But it seems so much more difficult. Like the bosses,
it is hard.
It's like it's a bad thing sort of that they're so tanky, but it also means you have to approach them in such a strategic fashion that I think it just adds a certain layer of like the game being more engaging than at least I found the first one.
I agree. I am having a lot more fun with Vermintide. I liked Vermintide 2, I think, more than most people, or at least more than like someone like you, Ryan, who's not into that style of game. But there was enough of a difference there, and Vermintide 2 really takes the uniqueness of Vermintide 1 and cranks it up. And I think that's what makes it really fun for me. And I'm playing the Bright Wizard, is kind of like my go-to class right now. And it's what I said, I think we talked about earlier, maybe not today, but a few days ago, the idea of each class playing drastically differently. So as a Bright Wizard, the idea that I have to manage my own heat. And if like I get really high on the heat meter, I'll be doing more damage, but I'm risking knocking myself out. But if I want, I can vent naturally, which won't do any damage to me, but I can also emergency vent my heat, which will do damage to me, but also bring my heat way down, way fast. And that kind of balance is really fun. Because there is that strategic element of thinking like, well, we're not surrounded by a bunch of people. My heat's kind of high, but since we're not really surrounded, I don't have to like emergency vent and I can just let myself naturally cool off and I can save like the emergency stuff for when we fight like a rat ogre or the dude with like a weird machine that blows green fire everywhere. I like that a lot.
Do they put a lot of emphasis on teamwork? I know you're saying like it seems like there's a lot more emergent strategy, but there's like mechanics that force you to work together.
You can it's the same as Left 4 Dead in the sense that there's like special enemies, and the special enemies basically force you to cooperate. Like it's probably a good idea to cooperate to begin with, so that when you get a horde, they're all kind of concentrated in the same area, and like AoE attacks work, and your tank can actually block effectively for the most of the party. But then there's like enemies that will grab you and like sequester an enemy and just pull them away. Like there's some violent stuff in this game. I'm surprised it didn't make it into the montage. Like I was away from the group and I got hooked by one of those Skaven hook people, and I didn't realize that if you don't
he
kill the hook
you.
guy, he impales you, and then you just sit there on the hook with the like it's like up your anus, waiting for your team to come and rescue you. Like it's violent, but they have special Skaven and Chaos that essentially like they try to separate you from the group, or there'll be like one like the Storm Weaver, whatever it's called, I can't remember, but the sorcerer that makes like the green maelstrom that whips people around, like you when that shows up, you have to like drop whatever you're doing and prioritize finding that guy so that you can
God forbid he shows up in a point where you're in a tiny room that separates you and he puts it right in the middle and you all just get pushed away. You get killed so fast. You need to find him and kill him.
There's like check conditions, sort of like in chess, that can happen. When we were fighting last night, one of the final bosses of one of the chapter lines, we had actually killed him in this arena, and the game chose to spawn a bunch of specials, and 3 of the 4 of us were downed. And one of the hook guys came out, and I didn't have time to res anybody. So we actually failed on like a technicality. I wasn't dead, but I was gonna be dead.
Right.
And there was not much I could have done about that unless I just killed him straight away. But you know those hook guys are crafty. Like they just get you no matter what you seem to do.
Yeah.
But if nobody else is up, that's the end. So sometimes you just get the short end of the stick. So there's a little bit of tension in that.
Sometimes you do.
I think the inclusion of each class gets an ultimate is also really fun too.
Yeah, I agree.
That adds
That's
a little
really
bit.
like this is not the first time I've expressed this opinion on the show, but the reason that I do not really care for the PvE in Left 4 Dead is because in the end, it's 4 of the same model, more or less, like shooting the same weapons, more or less. And the difference in something like Vermintide 2 is that every class does feel unique. And the fact that there's like that one extra element on top of it, like the RPG Ultimate, is like enough to make it slightly varied. Like there's more of a strategy beyond just there's zombies, I'm going to shoot the special zombie first and then shoot all the other zombies. There's like do I drop the ult here? Where's the proper place to do it? Do I do it on top of a unit that's down so I can get them up, or do I do it on top of the boss and maybe that'll keep them completely away so that I can help everybody else out? And it just adds a little bit more strategy to the gameplay, even if it is relatively light.
And they also add to, and this actually is a carryover from Vermintide 1, the manuals. I can't remember what you call them.
No, they're like the grimoires.
The grimoire, tomoirs, yeah. Which you know, it's optional, but it's what it does is somebody picks it up and it takes a spot of your healing potion slot. You only get one of those, so the person who's carrying it can no longer heal themselves, and you're basically down a heal for the rest of the level. But if you can get out with that tome and implementing kind of this extra little bit of difficulty on yourself, the entire party's loot goes up. Like you get better loot because you got out. And I think there's 3 tomes per level, and they're all really well hidden. And you have to like explore and do these really difficult jumping puzzles for some of them to even get access to them.
That was a cool part of the first game too. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that that's carried over as well and can make it more difficult.
The grimoires also, when you pick one of those up, they'll lower your total max health.
That's true. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that. I thought when you got downed, what was doing that, like Dark Souls 2 style, but no, it was the grimoire.
Yep. But and it's really fun to get to open up a loot box and get some sweet loot. And each weapon changes your abilities as well. Which is cool.
I think it's this similar to Left 4 Dead. Like they're similar to my point earlier about Left 4 Dead. There's also that one extra system where like when you finish a level, there's a decent chance you're going to get a loot roll and you might improve yourself a little bit for the future. Like what it actually really reminds me the most of is like a more varied Shadow Warrior 2 is really what I kind of got out of it. And I think like I'm not going to put words in Nick's mouth, but I was like, no wonder he likes this so much, because it's like, it's Shadow Warrior 2, which you loved, plus like there's more of an incentive to playing it in co-op, except for just being like 3 wangs. Everybody has like their own kind of unique role to play within the squad, which I think makes it more engaging multiplayer at least.
The combat also just feels really good. Like there's actually a parry system, and I'm playing as the elf lady, so she's got a proper dodge.
Yeah.
And I can like zip around the battlefield, slashing people's heads off, and it feels amazing. Like if you time the parries right, you can actually do that kind of like Batman style thing, like in Arkham Asylum, where you're just like bouncing off people. All of their hits are trying to hit you, they all deflect, and then you just retaliate on everybody. So you can actually turn the tides in battle just by being actually good at it, which I'm not, but I'm gonna get there.
Elf Lady really does feel like you're kind of like a Legolas character, where you're just all over the place, flying arrows everywhere and slicing heads off. Where the dwarf character, it's really satisfying to wind up your hammer and just like cleave like 6 like rats, and their heads just come off.
Dude, it's so minor, but I actually also really like that they're like, this dude's a dwarf, and then that one level that we played takes place like 30% in tall grass, and they're just like, the grass is taller than the dwarf, so
good
like
luck.
you have to like constantly jump to see what's going on and then like position yourself accordingly.
Dude.
Yeah, I was like, you know, it's annoying, but it's also hilarious. Like I think that it actually completely works, in my opinion at least. And there's like an enemy that is armored, but he has a helmet, and the helmet is the weak spot. So I'm trying to bash him around like his organs, and then he goes like, "Oh, you got to hit him in the head," and I'm like, all right, like you gotta try to jump and do like an overhead smash that catches him on the top of the head. But
and like as a bright wizard, it's really fun to stay far back when there's a big group of enemies. You just hurling giant fireballs into the crowd and just messing up everybody's day. And then I was playing with Sinvicta, and he was playing the witch hunter with the rapier. He has a passive ability where if he tags an enemy, that enemy takes X% more damage, which is neat. But it was really fun to watch him waggling his rapier around because it looks silly. But every time he killed an enemy, he'd slice their throat, and they would just grasp their throat, and just blood would spew, and they'd collapse to the ground dead. It's just satisfying. It's a really fun game to play, and I'm actually happy to hear that you're enjoying it, Ryan, because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, like this is like the greatest praise that I will give
this kind of game.
A horde game, basically. Like I have none of them have ever really grabbed me, and this one I'm like, I could see myself playing more of it. I realize, I think the more I play of these, I'm like, they're Borderlands, but
but they're a bit more cohesive in that you got to really be on your team like all the time.
Yeah,
Borderlands, you kind of do whatever. This, you got to be like 100% focused.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that you do have to stay together is what really draws me to it. Instead of 4 people are all simultaneously playing this, it's like a team has to play it if you want to have any chance to defeat the boss at least.
And for those who don't have friends, I did play a little bit solo a couple nights ago with just 3 AI, and I got through the level. It was hard because
the AI are better than me at least.
Like they always are following your lead, so they're never like ahead of you in any way. And they can be a little annoying sometimes if you're going for like to grab like a health pack or whatever. There's a chance they're gonna run up ahead of you and grab it before you. But they're fun, and it's doable, which is nice. Still more fun with friends.
It will make you hate your squad when you lose. Like when I was doing quick play with randoms before like the closed beta was over, you're like, I can't believe there are people worse than me at video games out there, or worse at video games than me out there. I was losing
random
my mind.
queuing is dangerous.
I think I'm going to learn the fights though, which was nice for the bosses. Like we actually, not like we were thriving, but we were actually able to take them down because we understood what was going on.
It's really fun to watch. It's fun to watch your friend get knocked back by a rat ogre, just get smacked, and he goes.
Dude, yeah, the animations and like the sense of like scale on the enemies is really nice. Like when you get smacked by the storm vermin and you fly across like half of the environment, you're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Also, like, crap.
Well,
it's cool when it happens.
So I'm looking at the Vermintide 2 listing on Steam, and it's under the violent games subcategory, which I didn't know was a thing. But then I click on the violent games subcategory, and it just takes me to store.steampowered.com. Are they trying to
every game is violent?
Yes. Yeah, every game is violent. Well, all consumption under capitalism is violent in its own unique way. So
there's no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism.
Exactly.
You haven't played it yet, Bear, right?
I have not played it yet.
Do you like these kinds of games?
See, I don't know, man. I sort of looked at Vermintide 1 with a similar mindset that Ryan had, which is that this is the same thing over and over again, especially because like they're sort of combating that already with the fact that they chose to make all the enemies the same thing with the rats.
Yeah.
It's already got that knock against it. So you sort of working from behind already. And now I think they've done maybe what will draw me into it. It sounds like they have done the things that would get me interested, which are make the cooperative mechanics like necessary, because it's so easy in games like this to just be 4 independent dudes doing whatever, and it doesn't really matter what your teamwork looks like. And the RPG style things, you know, like with the ultimates and the leveling up and everything.
There's leveling in every 5 levels. You get a skill point to spend, and you can like specialize your character. There's a crafting system, so you can take all your garbage loot and turn it into something to make it good loot.
Yeah. Like some incentivization to progress, which I think was kind of missing in the first, although they had similar mechanics for progression, just wasn't really all that enticing. And yeah, I doubt that I'll play it, to be honest, but I'm glad to hear that they've made these changes. I'm optimistic about maybe a potential future experience with it, but looks good.
I was thinking there could be some huge potential in this being like the next sort of iteration of a Diablo type game.
Yeah.
Like a single player version of this type of thing that's not about a team game, but you just go on an adventure in a world and collect loot in hack and slash style.
Yeah.
Or tell a Game of Thrones story as a 4-player, you know, fight White Walkers and tell stories. I think that could be awesome too.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick. I think they're leaning on the Diablo 3 style loot grind system, while it's not fully on Diablo 3 levels, is the right way to go to set itself apart and make itself unique. It's fun.
I hope somebody makes it someday. I want that game.
Hey, Telltale.
Oh, no, please.
No, I'm good. I don't want Telltale to try their hand at it. No, thank you.
Cool. Well, there we go. Warhammer Vermintide 2. It is available now. It's $30, and you can get the collector's edition for $45, or just get the normal one for $30. And those are your choices. Okay, cool. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've all been playing this week. Go around the table a bit and just hash it out. Nick, I want to hear about. You're going to have to give me the name again. I thought I remembered.
Yume Nikki Dream Diary.
There it is. Yume Nikki Dream Diary. What is that?
So there was a game that came out like 15-ish years ago. It's an old RPG Maker classic in the world of indie gaming called Yume Nikki. It's a surreal adventure game where you play as this young girl in Japan who goes on weird, surreal trips through her dreams, and you find items and interact with entities of various types. It all has this sort of unsettling vibe about it, that everything could kind of go a bit Silent Hill and horror. And it kind of almost does sometimes, but it always kind of reels itself back a little bit. And just lands in this sort of unsettling, odd place. So then fast forward to now, another developer, as a sort of homage, has created this game, Dream Diary, in 3D, and sort of recreated the game, but put a few little spins and twists on it, and gone into similar directions with the same kind of vibe. So I played all of that. It's maybe about 5-6 hours long across 2 stream sessions. And I thought it was okay, actually. I know there's a lot of detractors saying that it wasn't going to live up to the original, being that it's of such a high pedigree and so well loved. And I see some problems.
And most controversial games ever created with RPG Maker, according to the developer.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not really sure why, but sure.
Yeah,
I guess if they have that opinion, sure. But the general sentiment was that this was not going to live up to it. And I guess if you really want to be sort of pedantic, maybe it doesn't, but you know, it's a different direction for it. It's 3D. It's going to have its own flavor to some degree. And it had some janky moments. It had a couple of bugs, but they've been working on it. They've been fixing some stuff. I think it's got the same kind of ethereal weirdness and the same kind of art style that is unsettling and creepy all throughout it, as well as quite a good soundtrack and some surprising moments that I didn't expect to happen. So, I mean, I don't want to spoil too many of the specifics, but it does touch on a bunch of the same beats of the original without being just a direct retelling. It's got a lot of the same characters and a lot of the same scenarios, but it also does some different stuff as well. I did find the ending to be particularly not that satisfying, but it's a surreal game. It's about the journey, not so much the destination. I wish it was a little longer. Yeah. And it's a bit linear is the other thing. I was hoping there was a bit more room to just kind of wander, but it's kind of like you need this item to get to this item to get to this item. So it ends up being a bit like a Zelda kind of, you know, lock and key system.
Okay.
Whereas the original was a little bit more freeform, where you could just kind of do stuff and see what happens. So it's more of a game, I guess, than the original was.
It's just recently came out on Steam too, February 22nd.
Yeah.
$20. There you go.
It's a little pricey for what it is, I think.
Yeah,
And since it's a niche kind of game in the first place, I get that it's not for everybody. If 20 is a little expensive, maybe wait for it to go on a bit of a discount if it looks like it might be your jam. But I didn't regret buying it. I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a game made by my worst enemy.
I was gonna say, this seems like the one that you would reach the first impasse at and be like, I'm good. I don't need to play.
No, but it's like one step beyond because it's good and also famous. So I'm gonna be asked to play it, which is really the greatest sin of all.
It's Undertale levels?
No, it's not. It's not anywhere near the notoriety and fervor of Undertale. I don't think people are as aggressive about this one.
It's got a fan base. It's got good reviews on Steam too.
I think they'd rather you played the RPG Maker game than this one, if I was to guess.
Ryan, what have you been playing?
So I played Vermintide 2 this week, and I've been playing more Into the Breach, which I'm not going to touch on that much, but that game continues to be like really amazing. And the more squads I unlock, the happier I am. Like they're all so different. Like I unlocked the Ice Squad.
Yeah.
And I finally got my first 4-island victory. But the Ice Squad was like a dream come true because there's an ice artillery. And this is just an indication of like the synergies that can happen in the game between pilots and tanks that are not well known when you first get started. Like there's the Ice Squad. They have a tank that shoots ice, but whenever you shoot the ice, it also ices up the unit that shot it. Mm-hmm. But there's a pilot that starts every mission with a shield. Ooh. So when you play with her piloting the Lord of the Ice, you're right. It's Bethany, chat. She gets unlimited freezes, essentially, with no penalties on her whatsoever. And I was having like galaxy brain moments. When you realize you can like block a spawn and then have your ice tank shoot ice onto the unit that's blocking the spawn. And then when the Vec tries to emerge, it breaks the ice, doing no damage, but also the Vec can't exist. You're like, this is incredible. Right. Like you get, there's achievements like, finish a mission without killing a single alien. I was like, it's not possible. And then when I played the Ice Lords, I was like, it's not possible to not do it. You finish the level and there's just like 20 iced up aliens on the level. They can't spawn, they can't move. It's like a dream come true. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
That game is really, really good. Like, and I think I'm going to keep playing more of it. I got salty because they are so different, like you said. And I got so used to the default squad that I got locked into a certain mentality where I was looking at the game a specific way, and I kind of locked myself into that. You really have to shift it because it is so completely different. The strategies are totally different for every squad.
I was playing like Ice Gods, and I cruised to a 4-island victory, like 2 perfect islands and then 2 islands where I lost like 1 objective. Mm-hmm. So I had something like full grid power and then like a 30% chance for buildings to survive when they got hit. And it was so easy. And then I played as the Electric Whip Squad, and I lost like 4 grid on the first mission. And I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I want to play the Ice Gods forever. Yeah.
I think Whip Squad just sucks, honestly.
I've seen people like, that's the perfect post on the Into the Breach subreddit is when they get like, buildings are immune, but they can also be a conduit, and they show like 1 whip kills like 8 enemies. I think that's a dream come true. But Ice Lords, Smoke Gods, they're a dream come true. Beam Boys are okay. Anyway, I'm still playing a lot of that. It's a great game. Mm-hmm. And I checked out, I think I'm the only one here that checked it out, but I played a lot of the Outbreak update for Siege.
Yeah, what's that
so
like?
For anybody who's not familiar, this is like, it's the very start of what they call year 3, which is like basically the start of the next season pass. So over the course of every year, they introduce like 8 operators or something like that. And then this is the first time I think that they also added a new PvE mode that's only going to be around for a month, which is basically just like Vermintide 2 with guns. Like it's another horde mode. The premise is like they took like 8 operators that are well balanced for the mode, and a meteor strikes, and now people are zombies, and then there's zombies that are large and explode, and then there's zombies that are really tanky and they only have one weak spot.
Is there one that grabs you
with its tongue?
Yeah,
there's no tongue grabber, but there is a rooter that makes like an AoE spot on the ground and holds you in place until you kill them and does damage over time. So very similar. So it's it's horde mode. It's Left 4 Dead basically.
Yeah.
But it's Left 4 Dead with siege gunplay, which is good. Like it's reasonably fun. There's only 3 missions, and it's only going to be around for a month. And like, as far as I'm concerned, like the skins and stuff they added are not very good, but it's kind of for them to release it for free. Yeah. And it's not just like an afterthought. It's pretty okay. I like kind of never want to see it again, but to play through it once or twice is pretty good. And the new operators are really fun in multiplayer as well. So like there's one operator that has a drone, and essentially when you use the drone, if any enemies move, they show up outlined in red, like on your HUD. So you can actually basically see them through walls. So the way you try to use it is like you use the scan, and then you have somebody use like a panic ability, like Fuse shoots in his cluster bomb that forces everybody to move. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, there's where all the enemies are. And now we can like plan accordingly. And then there's another operator that gives everybody like a huge, like an Uber charge from TF2, basically. They get more HP, and also their recoil is reduced to like 0. So you go, okay, we're about to siege the objective, like use the nano boost, and then everybody is just like, and it's good. That game continues to be great.
I was watching you guys play a little bit of Siege. That scan seems like it's really strong. Like,
I think it's the standard, like, nobody knows what to do about it yet.
Yeah.
So it's the same like when Dokevi came out and like you could phone people were like, she's gotta get nerfed. That's ridiculous. And then after like a month, you're like, she's calling, okay.
Right.
Goodbye.
Mathis, what are you playing?
Not too much other than what I've said. The 2 games I guess I haven't really brought up is one that nobody gives a crap about. I've been playing through Soul Reaver 2, DAE, Soul Reaver 2.
Oh, yeah.
I played through that fairly recently. Well, the first one actually, but yeah, I care a little about that.
Soul Reaver 2, I recently played through Soul Reaver 1 a couple weeks ago, finished it. Liked it for the story and the characters. I played it when I was a kid, but liked it for the story and the characters, but the gameplay was monotonous and boring. You could skip combat and everything was a block puzzle. Soul Reaver 2, at the very least, there's no more block puzzles. Every puzzle is layered and more complicated and requires some thought, and the combat's a bit better. But again, we're talking about a game from 2002.
Is the map still crazy hard to remember where you're going?
Yeah, so far anyway. I have to play through the game again. I lost all my footage because there was a bug between fraps in the game, and it corrupted my save file. So I got to do everything again. It's really great.
Good old fraps.
Yeah, I still use fraps for a lot of things, surprisingly.
We're like good old recording a game that came out in like the year 1998 on Windows 10.
Oh man, recording Soul Reaver 1 was a chore. Oh, that was so hard. Super fun. But that's for Judge Mathis. The other game I'm playing that's more modern is Surviving Mars, and that is from the developer of Tropico and being published by Paradox. Surviving Mars is about making a colony on Mars suitable for human life, and then managing those humans and that colony when they arrive.
Sounds like your game.
It's really good. At least the first, I'm like 5 hours into it so far. And there is that worry that some people have, and I really can't address it, is once you hit mid and late game, it becomes shallow and kind of, it runs itself. And I can see that might be a problem. I'm not entirely sure yet. The reason I'm not entirely worried about that is because all the colonists have individual, very Paradox style, have very individual like personality traits and what they like, and they can grow old and die, and et cetera, and you can have kids that are literally useless and just take up colony space until they get old enough. Yeah, it's how
does it compare? Because like this is a game I like, the style I like at least. How does it compare to something like City Skylines or RimWorld? Like, what is it more similar to?
It's more similar to RimWorld than it is to City Skylines. It's less about making an optimal city and more about making a colony suitable for life. The opening of the game is probably my favorite. So you pick a sponsor for your mission, and that sponsor will dictate how much money you have to spend right at the beginning, how many rockets you have right out the gate, and how much space is on your first rocket to bring things to Mars. When you land on Mars, there's no humans. It's just drones and robots, and with those drones and robots, you need to set up a colony that can then have one of however many rockets you have left bring humans from Earth to Mars to live there. And depending on who you pick for your sponsor, you'll have a pool of people to choose from. And when you're picking who you want, you have like little check marks of like, I want somebody who's a workaholic but not a hippie. I want somebody who's between this age and nobody younger or older. I don't want anybody who's considered lazy or a vegetarian. And there's a ton of things like that, vegetarianisms and whatnot of what they'll eat and what they won't. And then that will narrow the pool down. And then you send that rocket with those people from Earth to Mars. They arrive, and then they settle into your first dome that you've built, and that has food and water and electricity and oxygen all pumping into it. And then you have to make sure for the next 10 souls, which is like the next 10 years, they're happy. And if they're happy, more applicants will accept the invitation to come to Mars. And as you have more and more humans there doing research, you'll unlock better domes and better buildings and things that'll make your colony run smoother and smoother and smoother, to the point where that's where the worry comes in. Well, once it gets to a certain point, is there any difficulty anymore? And the answer I think that the developers have for that is they've introduced something called mysteries, and they range from easy to hard. And those mysteries can be like alien life that was on Mars before you, now their technology is causing problems, to you've discovered something on Mars and it's messed with the atmosphere in Mars, and now you have to manage that. And you also have things like meteor storms that will knock out wires and pipes, and you need to worry about that as well. Or cold snaps that will freeze up all of your buildings, so they, like, solar panels won't pop out to gather weather, or rather gather sun anymore.
Pop up SimCity style, just out of nowhere, you'll all of a sudden
like all of a sudden a meteor strike will hit, and it'll hit like a wire or a pipe, and now you have to manage kind of emergency, like get your drones there. Your drones only will operate within a certain distance of a drone hub or a rocket or a mobile version of that, and only the drones assigned to that drone hub, rocket, or mobile drone hub will work within that perimeter. They don't overlap to a point where all drones now work in all areas if you have a drone hub that expands the area of the original rocket. The overlap is only where, if that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining it in a way that makes sense to you.
Well, does it get to that RimWorld level of specificity where you're starting to program the drones to do certain things or prioritize certain actions?
You can place a building and indicate the priority you want that building at, but you can't individual drones being like, hey, you are only going to operate this thing. The drones will just kind of hit like highest priority, medium priority, then lowest priority. Okay. And when you get there are only certain buildings only humans can work, and you have to make sure that the people that are working it have the right specialities to work those buildings. So there is that level of complexity and depth that's really fun so far for me for like the first 3, 4, 5 hours. And I found myself, before I started recording, starting like 2, 3, or 4 new games, because now I have an understanding of how this works. I would make my colony differently if I did it again, so I do it again and I make it differently. And each sponsor is also a difficulty. So like the very first sponsor is like the International Space Station sponsor, gives you like $30 billion in one of every drone and like 4 pre-built buildings. And the hardest sponsor is Russia, and they give you like no money, and the pool of people is like 50 people, and there's a penalty. They like, everything costs 50% more than it normally would. So you have these self-imposed difficulty levels that you can put on yourself if you want to make it more difficult for you. But I think, Ryan, you would enjoy it on that Rim, because it's way closer to RimWorld than it is City Skylines. And it's beautiful. The game is really gorgeous. I really like the aesthetic a lot, and the detail they put in all the models, and the planet looks really, really good. So I suggest it, at least so far, for those who like that colony simulation kind of game.
Great.
Yeah, it's been on the bubble of being checked out, I think, for a while.
I would suggest it. The issue I have with it is it's got that Paradox thing, and I know Paradox didn't develop it, but it doesn't have a fucking tutorial in the game. There's no tutorial. There's a very easy option right in the main menu, like easy start. Click that, and like you have to go to the menu and look at all like the things you want to get done early on, kind of like checklists, similar to RimWorld, but RimWorld at least pops them up for you. Yeah. This doesn't. It has a couple of hints here and there it'll pop up, but there's no tutorial, and there was a lot of fumbling around for the first hour or 2 of me trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do. I wish they had put a tutorial into the game, because the opening first few hours of the game are the most complex by far.
That would be a big turnoff for me. I don't think I'd even want to push through if there's no like guiding hand, especially for something as complex as a Paradox game.
I guess
Paradox
luckily
Game, I guess.
they gave a bunch of people early access, and Quill made an like a 5-episode like the things you need.
They're just
to know.
relying on Quill to do it at this point.
They paid Quill, like it's like a sponsored
cool.
series
Okay,
of
well,
like
yeah, there we go.
Quill's tutorial of
Yeah.
surviving Mars. I would suggest checking that out. It helped
Cool.
me quite a bit.
Right on. All right, yeah, that's going to be available in 5 days on Steam. Pre-purchase is $40.
What about you,
I have been playing Final Fantasy 15 Windows Edition, or I guess as Activision would call it, Final Fantasy I. And the port is surprisingly damn good. I was blown away. It's running real well. I don't have it on the highest. I tried that and it got a little choppy for me. So I think that's just my machine though. I got it down one notch on the settings and that is going really smoothly. It looks beautiful in 60 FPS. I'm surprised, honestly, how much I ended up getting into Final Fantasy 15 this year. It was like January was my sulk and wallow in the self-pity phase. So I had to have a console game to go to and that ended up being it. And it was like, I got into it again, and I think they've made some changes over the last year or so that make the experience a lot more enjoyable. I've touched on those things a little bit too, but I'm sure people are mostly concerned with whether or not the Windows edition of it is good, and it is. It is surprisingly good. They've done a good job with the port. It's exciting for the future of Square development as well. It seems like they're embracing the PC as a development platform, so that bodes well for us in the future. Hopefully, we can see some more things from them. Yeah, that's been good. I'm playing Rocket League. You know that by now.
I hope every week when we do what you've been playing, you just say Rocket League every
Well,
time.
hey, check this out, though. I'm approaching a milestone here, 986 hours. I'm almost there.
Oh, man, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not that crazy. There are people who
It's
have
been like 3 years. I think really
thousands of hours in like League or Dota 2 or something.
Yeah, spread it out over the course of the time. It doesn't really look that bad. But
Yeah, that's true.
it is still a lot. And yeah, that's been the majority of my week. Good stuff. Okay, well,
It's been a good week.
yeah, it's been a good week. It was an eventful week. I was glad to have some conversation material this time around, but yeah, I think that'll about wrap us up here for this episode of Roundtable Live. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We appreciate your time and your support here on twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast, where you can catch us every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, X p.m. your time. Go ahead and Google it. You know how to do it. Mathis.
Hello.
Go ahead and read out the names of those patrons over on patreon.com/roundtable for me, please.
Absolutely. Thank you very much to the $20 patrons, starting with Julian Avelsgard, Scotty119, Ricky Grist, S.J. Mapler, Jin, It's Like You're Always Stuck in Second Gear, Falco, Smurfette, Cowboy Chemist, Eric Schooley, Stephen Aoki, James Peed, Peter Soonson, Ellis Spice, John Kalchik, O Tamaz Games BR, Jakar Sampson, With the Dance Number, Cole Noir, Sihoa, Talks to Wall, Colby Klein, Greenlight, and Oren Saltzman.
I'm glad to have most of my pronunciations confirmed by you. That validates me.
Or am I pronouncing it because I've heard you say it the same way so long?
Yeah, no, it's been ingrained in your head a bit.
Right.
Thank you all very, very much. We do appreciate sincerely the support over on patreon.com/roundtable. If you enjoy the show, even if you want to just throw us a few bucks a month, we do appreciate that very much. On Twitter @RoundtablePC. You can follow us over there to get the notifications when we go live. And there's also a fancy little thing down below the video player too. Don't know if you saw it, but there's a schedule now that automatically updates. So it just gives you the countdown timer every single week. So if you're wondering when it is in your time zone, just go to twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast, and there should be a countdown timer letting you know exactly when the show will begin. And then the VOD over on my channel, youtube.com/BearTaffy. I love you. Thanks for watching. Anybody want to parting words, something like wisdom for the kids? Anybody got something?
See you later, everybody.
All right, I got
See you next week.
We'll try to figure something out. But hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.